Very good afternoon, class. This is Salman, Assistant Professor of Mechanical Department, ISL College of Engineering. Welcome to our next lecture of Mechanics of Material. In last lecture, we have discussed what are the 5 units in Mechanics of Material. In this lecture, we are going to discuss the first basic topics of your first unit 1, which deals about simple stresses, types of stresses, what are the relationship between stress strain, Hooke's law, relationship between elastic constants. So these are the basic topics of your first unit. So let us enter to the unit 1. So first of all, what is load? Load is nothing but a combined effect of external force which is acting on a body. For example, a body is resting on some surface. If you want to move that object, you should apply some kind of force, external force. Then only the object will be moving. So these things you might have studied in engineering mechanics. Those things again we are going to revise those things. Okay. So among these loads there are various types of loads. One is dead load, another is live load, third is inertial load, another is centrifugal load. So what is a dead load is nothing but the load which is a stationary load. For example, if you are having a beam, okay, you are hanging something to the beam. For example, there is a rod. To the rod you are weighing something, you are hanging something which is a dead load. Okay, it is not giving any effect to the beam. So that kind of loads are nothing but dead loads. Live loads are nothing but which are in application, fluctuating loads which are generally keep on varying. Inertial loads are nothing but because of your own weight you can consider it as an inertial weight. Next is centrifugal load, centrifugal forces. Generally you will consider centrifugal forces when an object is moving around a circular path. There will be a centrifugal force or load which is acting towards the center. So among these loads, again the loads are classified basing upon the type of load or basing upon the way they are acting. So one is tensile load. The tensile load is nothing but the load which tries to pull the object. Okay, which tries to pull the object, and mostly the load which is tensile load and the compressive load will be always acting normal to the surface. If you see here, you can observe that the tensile load here I am showing in the diagram. So this is acting normal to the surface. If this is a surface, to the surface it is acting normal. Normal is nothing but perpendicular to the surface. Similarly, the compressive load is nothing but the normal load acting towards the body. Means it is trying to compress, it is trying to push the body. This is pulling force, this is pushing force. You can consider even tensile load as a pulling force, compressive load as a pushing force. Next is torsional load. Torsional load is nothing but the load because of which the body tries to twist. For example, if your friend is trying to twist your hand, so that kind of load is a torsional load. Next is bending load. Bending load is nothing but, for example, you are taking a pen, you are holding at one corner and you are trying to apply the load at the other end. What happens to the beam is nothing but, to the needle is nothing but it tries to bend in this way. It tries to bend. That is nothing but it tries to rotate about the fixed joint. If you are considering this as a fixed point, if you are applying this load here, this bending, because of this load, that this rod or this beam or this your needle will try to bend or it will try to get rotated about this. Okay, shearing load is nothing but the load acting parallel to the surface. Because of this, what happens in the shearing load will always creates a tearing of something. For example, if you want to tear two papers, for example, if you are applying this kind of load, your object is like this. If you are able to apply the load on the surface like this, so the upper layer will be peeled off. The upper layer will be peeled off. That kind of loads are nothing but shearing loads. Okay, based upon the way they are acting, what are the various types of loads are nothing but point load, on what point it is acting. For example, again we will see with the diagrams. If the diagrams are not clear here, so if there is a surface like this, if the load is acting exactly at some point, example your weight, example your normal reaction forces. In engineering mechanics you might have studied about reaction force. If a body is resting on a surface, there will be a normal reaction acting at the center of the surface. That is nothing but at the CG of the object there will be a normal reaction. So that is nothing but a point load. Next is uniformly distributed load. For example, there is a surface. For example, you take a bridge. So on a bridge there is a carrier, there is a set of carrier which is evenly distributed, which is having 10 kgs of load, 15 kgs of load, which is being distributed on the lorry. So this will be evenly distributed on the lorry. Because of that, it acts as a uniformly distributed. It is called as uniformly distributed. This is point load, this is uniformly distributed. Next is uniformly varying load. Uniformly varying load. This type of loads are nothing but initially at the starting point we can consider from one surface it will be 0, on the other surface it will be maximum. So this kind of loads are nothing but called as uniformly varying loads. From point to point with respect to the length they are varying. At the initial of the length it is 0, at the maximum of length it is W per meter, that is maximum. Why we write here per meter is nothing but per with respect to meter, the value of this will be keep on changing. Okay, so for example, now we will see what are the units of load. Load is nothing but similar to that of force. So what is unit of force? Unit of force is nothing but Newton. Unit of force is nothing but Newton. Okay, generally we indicate by with a form with a notation N. Even if you want to represent the load by some notation, we generally use a word P or F. P or F. For example, for load we generally use P and generally use F. Next is stress. When an external load is acting on a body, for example, if this is my object which is resting on a surface, what I am trying to do is I am trying to pull the object from both the sides. So when I am trying to pull the object will not immediately deform. To till some extent, that is at the center which I have shown here, at the cross section, at the center of the object, if you see the cross section, there will be some inertial forces which tries to oppose this load which you are applying. This is the load you are applying from both the sides. Okay, during the initial application of the load, the body will not eventually deform, because there will be some internal resistance force which is generated inside the body which tries to oppose the applied load. Okay, this internal resistive forces will create some stresses on this surface. Stresses on the surface. That kind of stresses will try to create some stress on the surface. Now the stress is nothing but force upon this area. This force, this internal resistive force acting on this particular area, that is nothing but the cross sectional area. Now what is this cross sectional area? Is nothing but when an object is cut at some point, and if you observe that in a cross section view, so this is my view now. Okay, so at this view, this object is considered it seems to be a rectangle or a circular basing upon the type of rod. Okay, this surface is nothing but my cross section. If this internal resistive force is acting on this whole surface, then the stress is nothing but this internal resistive force per area, to what area it is acting. So stress we generally consider as internal resistive force per area. So if you see here, the stress is also similar to that of a pressure. Now if you see pressure is also force upon area. Now what is pressure? If you see, if an object is there, if the load is acting on the surface, generally we consider this outside forces is nothing but the outside force which it is creating the pressure on this surface. Okay, this on this area, what is the effect created by these forces, we can generally consider as pressure. Okay, so internal resistive forces per unit area we consider as stress. Now we have a notation for stress. Generally the notation for stress is sigma. Generally we use a letter sigma. Generally for stress notation we generally use sigma. Okay, sigma. Now what is the unit of the stress is nothing but, because we know that the formula for stress is internal resistive force upon area. Now force we know the unit is Newton, and for area everyone knows it is meter square. Okay, so the new stress, the new unit is Newton per meter square. Now we have few conversions, because in most of your problems they will be giving the loads in terms of kilos or mega or giga. So if it is 1 kilonewton they have given, then you have to convert it as 10 to the power of 3. Please make a note of all these things. You will be keep on asking this kind of things in your regular questions. Okay, so this 1 kilo is nothing but 10 to the power of 3, and 1 mega is nothing but 10 to the power of 6, and 1 giga is 10 to the power of 9. Similarly, 1 meter is equal to 1000 millimeters, 1 centimeter is equal to 10 mm, and 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeter. Please make a note of this. This is very important in your conversions during the problem solving. Now when we have discussed about stress, when we discuss about load, we have seen various types of load. When we are going to discuss about stress, again stress is of different types. So that is, simple stresses are there. These simple stresses we generally even call it as direct stresses, which are nothing but tensile stress, shear stress and compressive stress, which generally created because of application of load on the surface. Next is indirect stresses. Indirect stresses are nothing but when you are trying to apply the load, because of that load there will be generation of stresses. Along with the action there will be generation of stresses. That kind of stresses are called as indirect stresses. Examples of indirect stresses are bending stress and torsion stress. Next is combined stresses. Combined stresses is nothing but which is because of both direct and indirect. It is a combination of direct and indirect. If one is generated, there may be a generation of bending stress also. If there is a bending stress, there may be generation of direct stress, that is nothing but tensile stress also. So these may be happen at some cases. So those kind of stresses are called as combined stresses. The next very important thing which you have to see is strain. What is the strain? Is nothing but when an object is subjected to stress, generally it has to undergo some kind of deformation. Now this deformation we generally even called as strain, and the strain is nothing but change in the dimensions, which is generally denoted by E. If you cannot able to see here, I will write it as small e. Generally strain is denoted by small e. Okay. Now again the stresses are two types. One is tensile strain, another is compressive strain. Tensile strain is nothing but when you are trying to apply a stress, that is nothing but tensile stress on a surface, the object obviously will try to elongate. When it is elongating, what is the change happening in the dimension is, the dimensional change happening in length. That is nothing but increase in the length is happening. The length is being increased. Now see the tensile strain formula. Tensile strain formula is nothing but change the ratio of change in length by original length. Change in length, why we are considering, is nothing but because initially the rod is of a particular length L. When you are applying the direct stress or tensile stress, the object is going to be enlarged by some value. That value is nothing but delta L, if you say. So if I consider this total length as my second length, that is nothing but length 2 after application of load, what will be my length 2 is L plus delta L. This is nothing but delta L is nothing but my change, and L is my original length. Now if you see the change by original length, L plus delta L, L2 minus L1 by L. Now the tensile strain formula will become delta L by L. That is nothing but change by original. Now if you observe that since both are same units, both are same values, L and L, change in length or original length, both are length itself. So both will be meter or millimeter by millimeter. So the values will be cancelled, and the ratio is having no unit. That is nothing but strain is having no unit, since it is a ratio of same quantities. Next is compressive strain. Compressive strain is nothing but same here, the load is trying to pull the object, here the load is trying to push the object. So when it is trying to push the object, obviously the object will deform. In decreasing the dimension. Since it is a decrease, now if you try to calculate the strain by using formula, compressive strain, that is nothing but change in dimensions by original dimensions. That is nothing but L2 by L1 minus L1. L2 is now decrease. L2 is nothing but decrease now. By what amount it has decreased? Delta L. So the now the length after the application of load is L minus delta L. Why L minus delta L? Because its length has been decreased. L minus delta L minus original length. Original length is L. So now if you observe, during the compression we are going to observe minus delta L by L. This minus indicates that the length has been decreased. Whereas here we are going to get positive, because the length of the rod or the length of the beam is going to be increased. Okay. Next is shear strain. What is the shear strain? Is nothing but when you are applying a parallel load on a surface, because of the application of parallel load, the surface will be going to deform, whereas the lower surface will be at the stationary, the upper area will be going to deform. This kind of deformation is nothing but called as shear strain. Now if you observe this diagram which I have drawn here, let us redraw the diagram. If this is my surface, if my object is like this, sorry for that, because I am drawing by using mouse, it may get somewhat deviations. So if this is my surface, now your shear stress is acting, shear force is acting, the force is acting parallel to the surface. What is happening means, because of this force is generally acting on this layer itself. Because of that, this layer will be getting deformed like this. This layer is not having any kind of force. Because of that, this layer will be stationary. There will be a creation of a small variation, that is nothing but theta. Generally this theta we can be obtained by using a formula, that is tan theta. How we are going to obtain the tan theta is strain angle. Strain is nothing but mn minus that is nothing but, what is my original length, now change in length is nothing but mn. So if I am considering this my m, this is my n, now the variation is happening to a new value, that is n dash. Now what is the change happening? Mn dash minus mn, correct? So we are going to obtain this length, clear? Next, similar to that, there is no variation in this, length. So again I am going to obtain this, okay? Or you know the value of this. Now if I am having this angle phi, or if I obtain tan theta, tan phi is equal to opposite by adjacent. Now opposite is n dash by, what is my adjacent is np. This is my original length. So the volumetric, the shear strain will be generally given as tan phi is equal to n dash by np. Next is volumetric strain. Now what is volumetric strain is nothing but, for example, if you are having a cube like this, now we are trying to compress. Best example I can give you for this is, you are having a sponge, you are trying to compress the sponge. Because of the compression force, the sponge will be decreasing in its length, okay? That is nothing but the ratio of change in volume to original volume. Generally strain is nothing but change of dimension by original dimension. When I say volumetric strain, it is change in volume by original volume, that is delta v by v. If it is a compression, the dimension will be decreasing. If it is a tension, the object will be enlarging. For example, you are blowing air in the balloon. What is happening to the volume of the balloon? The balloon is enlarging. Okay. So what is the change happening in the volume to its original volume? We have to calculate when you need to find the volumetric strain. Okay. Now the notation for all these things is EV, ES, EL. What is EV? Nothing but volumetric strain. ES is shear strain. If it is a tensile strain, EL. If it is a compression strain, EC. Like that we will try to denote them. Okay. Next, a very most important thing we have to see is Hooke's law. Now what is this Hooke's law? Nothing but a scientist named Robert Hooke conduct a set of experiments to identify the relationship between stress and strain. I have told that whenever you apply stress, obviously because of that stress, the object is going to get deformed. That is nothing but strain is going to happen. Now what is this relationship between stress and strain? Hooke tried to correlate between these two. So what he did is, initially he took a rod, he tried to apply the tensile load on the object. He tried to observe that till the elastic limit, the stress is directly proportional to strain. This is very most important. This is within the elastic limits itself. Stress is directly proportional to strain. So I can draw the diagram like this. Even we have studied this in metallurgy and material sciences. So if this is your stress and this is your strain, he observed that they are directly proportional to certain extent within the elastic limit. This is my stress, this is my strain. So they have given a relationship, stress is directly proportional to the strain. To remove this proportionality, he used a constant, that is stress is equal to C strain. Now what is the C? Is nothing but the ratio of stress upon strain, and he named this as elastic constants or modulus of elasticity. So what are the various types of elastic constants we generally have is, Young's modulus, and next is modulus of rigidity. The last one is bulk modulus. Now if you see Young's modulus, generally the Young's modulus is the ratio of tensile or ratio of tensile stress to tensile strain or compressive stress to compressive strain. With respect to length, you can able to take tensile stress by tensile strain or compressive stress by compressive strain. Whereas the units for this, if you see, what is the unit for stress is Newton per mm square. Whereas for strain there is no units. So we can directly say that units of Young's modulus will be equal to the units of stress. That is nothing but Newton per meter square. Next is modulus of rigidity. The modulus of rigidity is generally denoted by C. Or G, which is some authors use it as a C, some authors use it as a G. Now the ratio of shear stress to shear strain is nothing but called as modulus of rigidity. I can say you in this way also for a memorizing purpose. The Young's modulus will be always a linear. Modulus of rigidity will be area modulus, whereas bulk modulus will be volume modulus. Okay, so this is for length, this is for area, this is for volume. You can, for simplification I am giving you, there are no certain rules for this. Okay, the ratio of shear stress to shear strain. Now shear stress by shear strain. Now what is bulk modulus? The ratio of normal force on all the faces of the body. When I say all the faces, if I take a volume like this, which I have taken previously also, if I take a volume like this, the force is acting on all the faces of the surface. So how many faces will be there? If you see, so if you see this, how many number of faces? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like this. 6 faces will be there. One is bottom, another is top, another is this side, front side, back side. So 6 faces will be there, and all the faces the load will be acting. Because of that load, there will be changes happening in the volume. That is nothing but volumetric strain. Now this ratio, that is volumetric stress by volumetric strain, is nothing but called as bulk modulus. If you see all this bulk modulus, rigidity modulus, or modulus of rigidity, or Young's modulus, all these are having same units as stress. Okay, we will see simple question on stresses, then we will wind up this session today, because I have written this on notes. Tomorrow we will try to have a lecture. While I am writing a notes itself, we can have a lecture. We can have a direct one-to-one interaction during that time. If you have any queries, you can give in a comment box, or even you can message me on my WhatsApp number. Okay, next let us see how the question is being framed and what they are trying to ask us. So in this question they are asking a simple square steel rod of 20, they are saying square rod 20 cross 20 in section. In section means when they have done a cross section, it is going to be observed like this. Okay, is to carry a axial load. What is this axial load? Is nothing but normal load. Axial load, when they give, you have to consider it as a normal load. Normal to what? Normal to the face of the surface. Okay, now if it is my surface, the load will be acting like this. Here they are asking compressive load means you have to give the direction inwards, you have to give the direction internally. If you have to give the direction, let me erase this and show you back. So if you want to draw the diagram for this load, you have to draw like this. Okay, the direction of this load will be the inside. Okay, so since this is compressive, they are asking us to find the shortening in length. Shortening in length is nothing but how much a decrease in the length is happening because of this compression. When you are trying to press it, when you are trying to push it, because of this pushing, how much amount of length has been reduced, that you have to find. For that they have given you the Young's modulus. E is equal to 2.14 into 10 to the power of 8 kilonewton per meter square. So first of all, when they give the data, you have to write the data and you have to convert all the data. For simplify, I say that when you are studying about strength of material and mechanics of material, most of the problems will be in mm. So try to keep the units in terms of mm, because the variations are going to be much smaller. You cannot even imagine to see in terms of meters. That will be happening in terms of millimeters. So try to convert the units in terms of millimeters, but whereas in terms of load, they try to keep them in terms of newtons, don't keep them in terms of kilonewtons. So first of all, see that they have given a cross section 20 mm, 20 mm. With this we can able to find the area of the material. Next they have given us a load of 100 kilonewton. Whenever I say kilo, we have just seen that 1 kilo is nothing but 10 to the power of 3, that is nothing but 1000 newton. Next is length of rod. They have given here the length of rod is 50 mm, so we will take it as 50 mm. So keep it in mm, don't try to change it, because your variations will be in terms of mostly in mm. If you convert here in meters, again you have to convert back those things in millimeters. So keep it as it is. Now Young's modulus, they have given E is equal to 2.14 into 10 to the power of 8 kilonewton per meter. As soon as I see kilo, I will convert it to 10 to the power of 3. As soon as I see kilo, I will convert into 10 to the power of 3. Again, if I see here it is having meter square, but whereas here I am having millimeter, here also I am having millimeter. Try to convert all the units in one term. Since these two are in millimeter, I will try to convert this also in terms of millimeter. I know that 1 meter is equal to 1000 mm. So I will make this 1 meter square. So 1000 has to be multiplied 2 times. So 1000 into 1000, 10 to the power of 3 into 10 to the power of 3, we will get it as 10 to the power of 6. 10 to the power of 6. So this is 11, this is 6. We already know from basic mathematics. So if I take this number above, this will be subtracting the powers. So the final unit will be 2.14 into 10 to the power of 5 Newton per millimeter square. Newton per millimeter square. Now we need to calculate the change in length. So they have given Young's modulus, and they have told to find the, they have given basic dimension, they are telling us to find the change in length. So first of all, let us see what are the things we know. So first we know that whenever I apply a load, we are going to obtain the strain. Whenever I am going to apply the load, since I am applying compressive load, obviously I am going to obtain the stress. So what is stress? Stress is nothing but load upon area. Keep your side. Next, strain. So strain is nothing but change in length by original length. Change in length by original length. This change they are trying to expect from us. Delta L by L. Now I know the relationship between these two. According to Hooke's law, or according to Hooke's law, stress is equal to E strain. That is nothing but a constant under strain. These generally E is nothing but obviously these constants are based upon a material. Because of that, they will generally give you in the problems. Most of the time E will be provided to you in your problems. If E is not provided for steel, generally you have to consider it as 2 into 10 to the power of 5 Newton per mm square. Okay, stress is equal to E strain. Now I will substitute stress formula, load upon area. E is E into what is strain is nothing but delta L by L. With this we have to identify this delta L alone, that is nothing but the change happened in the length. So I will try to obtain the formula with respect to delta L. So delta L is equal to load, I can write it as P, area I can write as A. So that is the reason delta L will become PL by AE. This is a direct formula, you can make a note of it. According to this, where P is your load, L is your length of the rod, A is area of your cross section, E is Young's modulus. Now everything has been provided in a problem. Load has been given 100 kilonewtons, that is 100 into 10 to the power of 3. Length has been given as 50 meters, I will substitute 50 meters. Area, they have given area of cross section as 20 cross 20, I will write as it is. Next, my E is given as 2.14 into 10 to the power of 5, which we have obtained in the previous slide. So now we will try to solve this. 100 into 50 we are going to get 5000. I will keep this 10 values as it is. 10 to the power of 3 I have kept as it is. Next, 20 into 2.14. You directly take a calculator, we multiply this, you will get the value of 856. I am keeping this 10 to the power of 5 values as it is. Okay. Now you try to solve these two alone. 5000 by 856 we are going to obtain it as 5.84. okay. Now see this 10 to the power of 3 and 10 to the power of 5, as we have discussed this earlier, when I take this value above, it will become minus 3 minus 5, I am going to get 10 to the power of minus 2. 10 to the power of minus 2. When you are trying to solve in a calculator, try to give this in a separate bracket and try to give this in a separate bracket. Okay. If you are not using some kind of bracket, the calculator may be doing some kind of mistakes. Okay, try to solve it in a proper way. Next, delta L you are going to obtain as 5.84 into 10 to the power of minus 2 mm. So when I say minus 2, I have to move the point to 2 decimals. So from 1 2, so we are going to obtain it as 0.0584 mm. So see here, so since this is a compression, this should be minus, but since this is a problem, we cannot able to show because the sign indicates only the type of change. Okay, so this much amount of decrease is going to happen in original length. So what is the original length we are having? 50 mm. Out of 50 mm, it is going to change by 0.05, means it's almost like 49.95 will be still remaining. So this 0.5 is much negligible. That is the reason in most of the strength of material problems we always try to solve in terms of mm itself. And the final thing I need to deliver is, please try to memorize this formula, which is very important, because most of the time they are going to ask you directly what is deformation or what is change happening in the length. So if the stresses are directly given, you can directly use this formula PL by A. If instead of loads are given, instead of loads and length, if they have given stresses, you can use this formula also. Delta L is equal to sigma by E, where your sigma is nothing but stress, where E is nothing but strain. If they have given directly this, you can directly use this formula. Sorry, here again E will become sigma. Okay, sigma by E, where E is your Young's modulus, E is your, okay, clear? So try to memorize these formulas again. If possible, we will try to see these formulas also, this kind of problems also, and we will use some university problems so that you can be able to clear. I hope everyone is clear till here. If there are any doubts, please try to give in a comment section, or you can try directly text me on WhatsApp. Okay, with this we can end our session. Thank you.